What's up, Calvary family? Hey, we are so excited. This is the first of many episodes that we get to do uh, right here at Calvary Home, and we're just so excited that y'all are listening in. We are diving into a sermon series for the next 7 weeks, which is titled "We Need Answers." Um, and what we're doing is we're asking the big questions, the questions that humanity has asked for many years, for many millennia or so. And the question that we're going to dive into today is there a God? So whether you're a believer, you're a skeptic, or somewhere in between, what we really want to do in our heart is to want to explore this question thoughtfully, especially with someone whose life and work revolves around this belief. And so what you'll see throughout the weeks is just pastors that are on staff here at Calvary Church just come on, and we'll have conversations. And the goal is to really help navigate these tough questions and dive a little bit deeper from based on what is preached on Sunday, and in hopes that this encourages you and empowers you to want to get curious, want to seek the Lord more. And we're just so excited. So today, as our first speaker for this episode, we got Pastor Tommy, PT,
All
Tommy
right.
B, all the things.
Starting this thing out.
We starting this thing out.
I don't know. It may be one and done for me. I don't know if you're going to have me back.
I hope not.
You hope not?
No.
You hope
Like
not to have me back?
No,
We hadn't
I
even
hope to
started.
have you back.
I know. I'm messing with you.
Oh,
I
man.
want to give a quick shout out to Calvary Church family, too.
Yes.
Thank you guys for giving this a chance. And hopefully there's something you can walk away with that's a blessing to our church family. And I'm sure if it gets shared a little bit here and there, maybe just something can spark the creative journey in finding God
Right.
with somebody's heart.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know that you kind of you introduced this sermon series yesterday in service. You talked about the book that we're based on, that we're
Yeah.
basing on.
I brought it. We'll try to see if we can get this on video. I bought mine on Amazon, but one of our great local church pastors, Pastor Robert Jeffers, over at First Baptist Dallas. A lot of you guys have seen his television program. I would assume he's on the radio, but I've seen his television program. And I heard him talking about this, and it's heavy. It's a heavy academic work. I'll just be honest. It's a stretch for me.
Yeah.
These types of topics are really not my candy stick. So I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But it's how can I know Robert Jeffress, and it's on Amazon. Like David's mentioned, I think there's 7 total chapters. 7 total chapters. Now I will say, you mentioned we're going to do it for 7 weeks. We're actually have Mother's Day right there in the middle for our local church
That's
family.
right.
We got Mother's Day.
Very true.
So we're going to be taking a detour on that week 3, but we'll be bouncing right back to it.
For sure.
So this is the book we're working from. I kind of changed up the title for the sermon series. We Need Answers. And I know for my speaking sessions, which are multiple, the book itself is kind of the launch pad, and then I just kind of took off and did my own thing as well. But definitely worth your investment and time to get this book while we're in the series.
Yeah. So kind of diving into it, I love your intro. I think it's so good. I loved it. It was just like
that wasn't out of the book.
No, for sure not. But the reason why I love it is because I love the vulnerability of it.
It's the facts.
It's just the honest truth. And I think
let me repeat it for somebody maybe that weren't there.
For sure.
I opened up the Sunday sermon with, I am a Christian.
Yeah.
And I am a Christian senior pastor. And occasionally I doubt.
Yeah.
I doubt God.
Yeah.
And I question, is there a God? And you can feel the room kind of go, ooh.
Yeah.
Because that's a very bold statement.
It is.
And I just wanted to let it set for a moment and let everybody know that was intentional. I'm letting you know that we're all in the same situation at times, and it's the tug of war between, is there a God? or am I just here on my own?
Right.
And it happens. And we'll get into some of the. I know you've got some questions for me, and I'll do my best to answer them
Yeah.
to the best of my ability. But that intro was definitely intentional, and I was kind of proud of it.
Yeah.
I could feel the room shift.
Oh
right
yeah,
instantly,
for sure.
So
I
that was
felt it
fun.
too. And I think mostly the reason why I love it is because we're coming out of celebrating Easter, the resurrection of
Yeah.
Jesus. We have beautiful brand new souls coming into the church,
Mm-hmm.
people that maybe have no idea of what a relationship with God even looks like. And I think that intro, it's so sober minding to help to say I'm not alone, and I'm not by myself in these thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think for it to come from the senior pastor, I think it's so powerful. And so
Yeah.
I thank you for that.
Oh, well, I think that is one of the things that makes our church special.
Yeah.
I'm a little biased, but every single person that is employed here or a part of our dream team in a very lead way,
Right.
we don't really work at this. This is just who we are. We're approachable. We're authentic.
Right.
We're human beings,
Right.
man.
Yep.
And this is kind of weird. This literally happened yesterday.
Okay.
I was in the lobby, and I try to shake as many hands I can.
For sure.
And I was shaking hands, and if I'm going to tell this story, and if the person that I'm telling the story about is watching this, if they were to see this, hopefully they can receive it the right way. So I'm near the coffee area, and I come around the corner, and this family, it's a mom and two kids, but the kids are older teens, maybe early 20s.
Mm.
And the girl, it was just so weird for me. The girl said, "Oh, it's you." and it was like,
Yeah.
and what's fascinating about that is that we're a small church.
Yeah.
We're just a small community family church.
Right.
And she said, "Oh, it's you." And I said, "I'm sorry." And she goes, "It's just amazing that you're out here." And I
Wow.
just, honest to
Wow.
God, I didn't even really know how to respond.
Yeah.
My first thought was, why wouldn't I be out here?
Right.
And why are you so shocked?
Yeah.
That is Calvary.
Yeah.
And that's definitely not trying to pat us on the back.
Of course not.
If anyway.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Cause I remember the first time meeting you, Emily and Emily's actually remembers the first time meeting you. You ran out to the parking lot to say hi to somebody that you didn't get a chance to say hi to. And I think that it shows the culture of Calvary Church.
Yeah.
And as always, it always starts at the leadership. And so I just love that that's our culture at church.
Yeah.
And
you do know I told you if you had me on this, we were going to take rabbit trails, and we're on one.
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I'm cool with it though. I don't
just
mind the
need to know,
rabbit
is there a
trails.
God?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're talking about?
Yep, which is actually our next point.
All right.
We'll dive into it. We'll dive into it. I have two personal questions
Okay.
that I'd like to ask you.
Okay.
The first one is, what led you to believe in God? Was it a moment? Was it a process
Led me to believe in God?
to believe in God?
I'm going to say this in a very complimentary way. My mom and daddy.
Yeah.
I was brought up to believe in God.
Yeah.
Now, for maybe someone that thinks that that's a bad thing, I was indoctrinated to believe in God.
Mm.
Now that I'm a dad and a senior pastor of a lot of families with little ones,
Yeah.
if you're not teaching your children to believe in God, someone else is going to teach them to believe otherwise.
Yeah.
I think the better answer, or the better question, I think really what you're wanting to know is, at what point did I believe in God for myself? And without question, that wasn't so much to please a parent. I found myself on my own journey looking for Him.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us, was it Ecclesiastes, that He's placed eternity in all of our hearts.
Yeah.
So there's this innate, there's this natural drawing to something after life, which leads to a supreme being.
Yeah.
Right? There's
Right.
this spiritual drawing that there's something going on outside of this world that as I know it,
Yeah.
and that's out of Ecclesiastes. We were born with that
Yeah.
drawing,
Right.
right? So for me, I gave my life to the Lord at a young age. I was 11 years old, and I was brought up in an environment of going to church every single Sunday, every single Wednesday, and in summertime we did a lot of youth camps.
Mm.
And it was in the summertime where I was alone at a camp, and when I say alone, without my parents,
Yeah.
and that's where I gave my life to the Lord. But I do know the root of my journey to Jesus Christ was I was brought up in a Christian home. And if you remember in the sermon notes yesterday, one of the origin of doubt is experiential,
Right.
meaning if you have a doubt in God, a lot of times that doubt comes from how you were brought up.
Right.
So I think it's fair to say that if you have a strong faith in God, sometimes it's because that's how you were brought up. You were given an advantage at an early age to believe that God exists. Now, not to be mistaken for your salvation.
Right.
You can't, what the old timers say, you can't ride into heaven on mama's coattail. At some
Right.
point, you're going to have to believe him for yourself.
For sure.
But it does help to have, and let me just pastor right now. That's why it's so critical for us as parents to impart, to lead, to model our faith in God to the next generation. And I've got 2 girls. I need them to. I want to give them the same advantage that I had. Now, for the unbeliever or for the atheist, the agnostic, for the critic, they would say, well, yeah, that you're just brainwashing. You're a product of brainwashing. I will admit that I am a product of brainwashing to an extent as a child.
Right.
But then when I came to an age of understanding,
you matured.
I had to make my claim. And to prove that is I've got friends that grew up identical to me that don't believe in God. So it's not like it's a sure thing.
Right.
But I had an advantage. I was introduced to him early. And then at 11 years old, I knew that he was real. And I knew that I had a spot in my life that he needed to live. And I invited him in. That's
awesome.
a long answer.
No, that's a great answer. I appreciate that. So how would you personally define God in your own personal words?
My goodness gracious. To define him, everything. Everything. It's in him, Acts 17, it's in him that we live, we move, and we have our being.
Yeah.
Everything about me is out of him.
Right.
From him, I'm going to get real preachery. Beginning and ending.
Yeah. Alpha
and Omega. Everything in between. It comes from him. He's the source of everything. And I'm seeing in my photographic memory, I'm looking through notes from yesterday's sermon.
Yeah.
He's the source of everything.
He's the substance.
Whenever we were arguing in the sermon, I was presenting the argument of the cosmological argument of the universe. And we were talking about how the believer would say the universe, it works, it has a design, it's just perfect.
Right.
Something had to create that he's everything.
Right. Yep.
He was before I took my breath, and if I die before he returns for his bride, he'll be after my earthly breath. He's everything. Yeah. So I guess a good scriptural definition that I will own and make it mine is he's everything to me in my living, my moving, my existing.
Yeah.
He's just everything.
That's so cool. I love that.
I don't know if it's cool or not, but you ask.
No, I mean, to me, it is, because for me, anytime I think about God, I think about he is the substance of all things.
All things.
All
everything.
Things.
Yeah.
Everything does not exist if it's not by his word, not by his hand. So, yeah.
And of course, to my friends that don't believe.
Yeah.
they would literally say the opposite.
Mm,
They would say everything exists outside of him.
mm,
You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm. Yep.
They don't pick and choose, just like I can't pick and choose. I can't pick and choose. He's everything.
Yep.
He's the source. I love how you say that. He's the source of anything and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Let's dive into some sermon questions.
Okay.
You said something that was really intriguing.
Okay.
You said rather than berating each other for our doubts.
Mm-hmm.
In your years of being a part of the church,
Mm-hmm.
how often has this been the case, and why do you think this is so common?
Yeah, it's not that I think, I know.
Yeah.
I grew up in the church, and I will tell you that once you start doubting openly,
Yeah.
if you slip up and let that out of your mouth,
Yeah.
there's just this undertone communication that you're just one step away from being lost. You better be careful.
Interesting.
This is Southern. I know you from New York.
Yeah.
I don't know if they talk like this in New York, but in the South, we say, be careful. That's a slippery slope.
Mm.
You're going to slide right down into, being lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will admit, I never saw a brother or a sister in the church that I grew up in. I never saw somebody correct. Don't you ever doubt. Don't you? It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It was red flag, alarm, alarm, alarm.
Interesting.
We have someone doubting. We've got to rescue them from doubting. It was almost like we were intimidated to allow someone to think. We were intimidated to allow someone to question.
Yeah.
We're scared to let our, this never happened. I'm kind of making this up. It's like a little fake story, but I could see me at my house growing up. If I said, "Is there really a God?" My mother would probably have inwardly panicked. Oh God, I'm going to lose him. But my mother was also the kind that would probably have done that inwardly and then loved me and tried to teach me and all. But I don't know if all the mamas would have hidden it.
Yeah.
I think some would have probably criticized their kids for questioning and doubting. And I think there's some types of preachers maybe that would not be willing to allow someone to question and doubt,
Yeah.
You said something earlier I wish I would have said yesterday, and that's all seriousness.
Yeah.
It clicked with me when you said it. In your intro, you were looking into the camera and you said, we're just coming out of celebrating the resurrection, and now we're asking, is there a God? And I promise you, I wish I would have said it yesterday, because it's like the classic story.
Mm.
Jesus went to the cross, buried,
Yeah.
resurrected, and he was alive in a transfigured body for 40 days
Right.
before his ascension, and he stumbled upon a few believers, one by the name that I carry, named Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
So post-resurrection, Thomas wasn't really sure, is this really him?
Right.
Can I really believe this?
Right.
This is a fairy tale. So we had doubt after the resurrection. Now listen, we weren't even there.
Right.
That Thomas was there.
Right.
And he doubted.
And he doubted.
This Thomas, right? This Thomas is sitting here doing a podcast. Of course I'm going to have some doubts.
Right.
I wasn't even on the scene.
Right.
And that Thomas doubted.
The one who traveled with Jesus.
I do need to ask my mother and father, why Thomas? Why Thomas? But I'm a junior.
Yeah.
Now I know why my dad chose Tom, and and I go by Tommy. We probably didn't want to get likened too much to Thomas.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is cool, isn't it?
It
Resurrection and then Thomas.
Absolutely.
It's almost like the scriptures say, "Hey, it's okay. Even one of my closest did this.
Yeah.
It's okay."
Yep. Well, that's why I love it, because I just remember all the hands raising, saying yes to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're jumping into the sermon series. And I'm just like, this is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly what the church needs.
Yeah.
Talking about questions, because you mentioned questions earlier. Another part of your sermon, you had said questioning foundational beliefs is not a sin, but a necessary prerequisite for faith.
Yeah, that's straight out of the book.
That's straight from the book.
That's a Dr. Robert quote. And without question, we're taught as children, aren't we?
Yeah.
One of your first school teachers, you said, Little David raised his hand,
Right.
and you said why, and you asked the question,
Mm-hmm.
and the teacher didn't get upset with you for asking why. It's part of learning.
Yeah.
We have not because we ask not,
Exactly.
and part of the journey of faith is asking and seeking and knocking.
Right.
And the good news is the Bible tells you He'll give it to you and
Right.
He'll open it to you, and He just wants you to start asking.
Right.
So a part of the doubt, the reason we don't want to, beat people up or speak down to them or criticize to them, because most people's questions are in sincere pursuit for knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, there might be an anomaly there. You might come across a family member or a friend, or you may even have a bad day and you be the guy yourself that your doubt and your question is challenging.
Mm.
Well, I think a lot of times when that's happened to church folk, they get defensive and there's no conversation. Now it's just an argument, and
Right.
they could be arguing over apple pie, but they just chose to argue over God.
Right.
They just argue.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also had so actually my next question, which you kind of answered it, but it's, do you think questioning God is okay as a Christian?
I think it's okay. It's a question that if somebody is looking to criticize us talking about this, that's going to be the one.
Yeah.
Pastor Tommy said it's okay to question God. I don't even know if I can communicate this the right way, but if you want to say why did somebody die? Why'd you let that happen?
Yeah.
I just believe grace is so good.
Yeah.
And I just believe grace is so real. And He gets you. He understands you.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe there was a guy dead named Lazarus, and somebody said, why'd you let him die? I mean, it's been happening forever. I don't think He's intimidated by that.
Mm.
So I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I think when we hear somebody that we really love questioning, we get worried about them, and it comes out like correcting them.
Right.
No. I mean, dude, you got to understand, as a pastor,
Yeah.
I'm in a lot of rooms with a lot of pain.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
get said, I hear statements like, I don't understand why God did that. I just don't understand that. I don't understand why God. I mean, I've seen the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want to respond with a Bible study. There's other times I just stay quiet because I get it, man. You're desperate, and you're wondering, is He real?
Mhm.
Because this really matters to you.
Right.
And it's not going the way you wanted it to.
Right.
So is He even real? And that's not a sin.
Yeah.
That's real. That's
just being human.
humanity.
Right. Yeah.
That's the realization that we need Him more than ever.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's good. Thank you for that. I have a scientific question.
I failed that.
Well, let's go. I'm sure it'll be good.
I had to sit by certain smart people to get through science class.
I get you. I got a GED. I understand. Just one question. Are
Yeah.
there any scientific discoveries that have strengthened your faith in God?
Man, scientific
Maybe just one.
discoveries. I mean, I think the most obvious I'll probably fall into that bucket of people that's the obvious,
Yeah.
right? Every time some smart guy on the news says they found a new star,
Yeah.
First of all, everybody that looks up and they say, look, there's a little dipper. I'm like, I can't see anything but stars.
Right.
Oh, look at there's that. I don't see that.
Yeah.
I'm not gifted in that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when I do hear really scientific breakthroughs of I think I'm going to really show my ignorance here. I just heard on the news in the last week, I guess there's they found water.
In some distant. Yeah. Yep.
So to me, it's just like, good luck, everybody. Good luck
Yeah.
trying
Right.
your best to prove that He's not here.
Yeah.
And He's not real.
Yeah.
Because He keeps blowing your mind too.
Right.
Your scientific mind cannot handle what God is and who he is and what he's done.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, I know that's a silly answer
No,
for
no,
you,
no.
but
I think that's good because one for me is just where the earth is positioned is just so perfect for life that it's
oh
just
yeah,
like
yeah, it's mind blowing.
it's mind blowing. And it's just I think of things like that and I'm just like a mind. Something had to have thought that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can't say I mean, obviously people will sit there and deny it, but it's really hard when you think with common sense
Mm-hmm.
someone made that happen. So
Yeah,
I just think that's pretty cool.
yeah. I'm gonna jump out there on thin ice, and this
Yeah.
is part of the podcast. I bet we'll probably end up deleting and not letting anybody know it happened. But I'm I have such reverence and respect on both sides of the aisle
Okay.
for those that give themselves over to studying what we're talking about.
Mm.
To the atheist that truly gives his or her life to trying to prove there is no God, or to the, we'll say, believer that truly is genius
Yeah.
in their study of this, I marvel at that
Mm.
because it goes to levels, man.
Yeah, their commitment
That
is crazy.
I'm just honest with who I am.
Right.
Man didn't have to do too much to prove himself to me.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I just recognize it. It's obvious to me.
Yep.
I mean, you tell me this is a table, there's a table.
It's a table. Right.
And when I think of the goodness of God on my life, and when I think of just the simple understanding of of scientific stuff you're talking about, but then I mentioned it yesterday. As a pastor, I get to see the worst, and yet to see grace applied.
Mm.
Man, there's no denying him
Yep.
to me.
Yeah. 100%.
Man, I've seen way too much life change,
Right.
transformation that didn't come from medicine. It didn't come from therapies. It came from a touch of God.
Absolutely.
Turned a life around.
Yep.
And man, it's easy for me. Now, of course, the guy on the other end of the aisle would say, poor little fella from Louisiana, he just, he bought into it.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Because I see the evidence.
Yeah. There's a really cool statement where it said, therapy's great, but an encounter with God is everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have about 2-3 minutes left.
Okay.
I did have one question. As we engage with the listeners, something that maybe you can look towards the camera. And the question is, if someone listening is on the fence about belief, where would you suggest they start?
Okay. I don't think I would say like a book.
Yeah.
Or even praying. I think it's I don't know, 10 minutes ago I mentioned it. You can't deny. I feel like a TV preacher.
Televangelist.
I'm looking into the camera. But I sincerely mean this.
Yeah.
If you by chance, if this little podcast just happened to fall into the lap of somebody that is sincerely struggling, debating, questioning the existence of God, if you truly are that person and somehow you found yourself here, you and I both know, you may not want to tell anybody else, but you know good and well, there's an emptiness in your life. And that's what's stirring you to question. And that wasn't placed there by mistake. He placed a measure of faith in you to ask and to seek and to knock. He loved you so much that he planted that within you when you took your first breath. So that to me is just the first sign. Just think, if you didn't have that question, I think that would be some evidence that he didn't exist. But you do have that question. That's why you're watching it. That's why you're listening to a little fella from Louisiana talking about a book from Dr. Jefferson. You're just searching. That's a sign to you that God loves you and he's real because He placed that hunger within you. So I think their first step would be just look, pay attention to within. Notice how you're feeling. Notice that you're looking for something that money can't buy. You're looking for something that another certificate at work or another degree from the university can't satisfy. You're looking for something in a partner in life. It can't fulfill. You're looking. God did that. God did that. And you're just one step away from finding it.
Thank you so much, Tommy.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time. Thank you for
Well,
coming
thank you
through.
for having me.
Yeah. And for everyone that's listening, whether you agree, disagree, or you're still kind of figuring it out, I just hope that this episode, it sparks something meaningful for you. And if this episode spoke to you, consider sharing it with someone or leaving a review. It really helps us grow thoughtful conversations like this. So, Calvary Church, we love y'all so much, and y'all be blessed. Peace.